right, guys, so today we're going to be working on strategic implementation for weight loss or muscle gain. And what I want to be showing you guys is how to kind of work all of this backwards and figure out, like, it's one thing to make a goal and say, okay, I'm going to lose 40 pounds, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, whatever it may be. It's another to actually map out how you're actually going to get there, right? Vastly different thing. So we're going to walk through this just super briefly, and then I'm going to walk through a little bit more detailed and kind of guide you guys through the process so that you can do this. If you need more help than I can give you today in the 45 to 50 minutes I have, make sure you take this to your trainers. I've already kind of walked all of them through how this is going to work and how to make applicable use of it. So if you need further help than I have that I can give today, make sure you bring it with your trainer, okay? All right, so to start with, we're going to walk through, and like I said, I've mapped out 12 weeks for you guys, because that's how many weeks we have in the challenge, right? So there's a spot for calories, all three of your macros, your current weight, and your weight goal. So we're going to flip on over, look at page 2, goes all the way down through week 12. All right, so like I said, it's going to be a little math, but I'm going to walk you guys through how to do it, right? So for weight loss, so if you're muscle gain, just kind of ignore this portion. Just find a seat, love. Here we go. You're very welcome. So we're going to take our current weight, and we're going to subtract our goal weight, okay? Yeah, of course. So I'm going to do this best I can to walk you guys through it. So we're just going to use me for an example to make it simple. So right now, I am 230 pounds. So for step 1, I'm 230. Let's say my goal weight is 200 pounds. So I need to lose 30 pounds. Pretty straightforward, right? So that's X, right? Number 2, so step 2, we're going to take whatever number we found, which is our X, right? So we're going to take 30, we're going to divide it by 12. Right? We're doing 12 because that's how many weeks are in the challenge, right? So what that's going to do is let us know how much weight we need to lose every single week for us to hit our goal, right? For me, that would be 2.5. So now I know I need to lose about 2.5 pounds every single week, right? Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, everybody tracking? Awesome. All right. Then we're going to take this number, which is 2.5, and we're going to multiply it by 3,500. And the reason is it takes between 32 and 3,500 calories to lose a pound of fat, right? So that's going to let us know how many calories we need to burn every week to get to that number. Does that make sense? Yep. So I suck at math, so I'm going to use my calculator. All right. So we're doing 3,500 times 2.5. That's going to give me 8,750 calories that I need to burn on a weekly basis. So then we're going to divide that by 7, right? Because it's 7 days in a week. That's going to tell me how many calories I need to burn, or not necessarily how many calories I need to burn, but how much of a deficit I need to be in every single day for me to hit my goal at the end of the week, which for me would be 1,250, okay? So I need to be in a 1,250 calorie deficit every single day. Not just burn 1,250, but I need to be in a 1,250 calorie deficit. Does everyone understand the distinction there? Okay. So what I'm getting at there, right? And the reason it seems like semantics, but it's important, right? If I just burn 1,250 calories, that hasn't accomplished me anything, right? Because my base metabolism's 2,600. So burning 1,200 doesn't mean anything. I need to be in a 1,200 calorie deficit. So once my food is logged for the day and I've eaten everything I'm going to eat, I still need to be in a 1,250 calorie deficit for me to lose weight. Yes? Every day.
1,250 a day.
Yes. For me, for my numbers, right? Everyone else is going to be very different. Does that make sense? If you guys have questions, please ask, right? Go ahead. Yes. Yep. For the challenge, right? So what we'll do, right, I'll walk you guys through this part. So we'll take a step back really quick. So we've done step 1. We figured out how many pounds we need to lose for the challenge, right? We've done step 2, and we figured out how much we need to lose per week. So stopping there, right, for me, I found out at the end of step 2, I found out I need to lose 2.5 pounds. Really ugly 5, ignore that, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the worksheet. I'm going to go to the very bottom of week 12, right, and over on the far right, which is our column for goal weight, I'm going to put my 200 pounds, right, because that's where I want to end at, right? So whatever your goal weight is, that's where we're going to write that at the end of week 12 all the way on the right, okay? Now I get to work it backwards. So if I know I have to lose 2 pounds every week, then I know that on week 11, I should be 202.5 pounds. Week 10, I should be, right, all the way back up. And I'm just going to work that all the way back to week 1, right? Because then I have a very clear goal. I have a measurable goal. I'm sorry? You're fine, bud. So now I've mapped everything out and I have a very clear and measurable goal about where I should be every single week. So there's never any guesswork. I know if I'm on track. I know if I'm not, right? Is everyone tracking? Awesome. Okay, so that's where we're at so far. So we've kind of worked it backwards and figured out, okay, where do I need to be every single week to make sure I actually hit my goal and I'm not just throwing some arbitrary number out there like, all right, I'm going to lose 60 pounds. How, right? And that's the part I feel like a lot of people typically get tripped up on, right? And then you're going to notice over on the weeks, every 2 weeks I have it in bold, right? And that's because every 2 weeks you should redo this math, right? For the pieces we're about to do, right? So this next step, and I'll explain that further in a second. So step number 5, we're going to multiply our BMR, or our base metabolic rate, right? Has everyone here done at least one InBody scan recently, within the last 10 to 20 days? Okay, awesome. So you're going to go on your InBody scan, far right, about halfway down, you're going to have your base metabolic rate, right? That's your BMR. So you're going to use that to figure out the rest of step 5, okay? So we're going to take that number, your base metabolic rate, so what you're going to burn every single day, no matter what, right? We're going to take that number, and we're going to multiply it by your by the activity factor formulas. And I put those on the next page under the step 2 implementation. And that's just going to help us kind of figure out what our TDEE is, right? And that's important for everyone to know. That's your total daily energy expenditure. So at the absolute end of the day, how much are you going to burn no matter what, right? So we're going to try, and the trick here is being brutally honest with yourself, right? Are you sedentary? Are you lightly active, moderately, very, extremely? No one in here should be extremely active, right? Very active should be very, very few people. Most people should be between sedentary and moderately if we're being 100% honest with ourselves, right? And the more honest you are with yourself, the more accurate this is going to be. Right, you can lie. You can say you're very active or you're extremely active. It's going to screw you over, right? You're not going to hit your goal because your math's all off, right? So be as honest with yourself as you can if you want to actually get results out of this. I saw some hands a minute ago. Everybody good? Good, good, good. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to take our BMR, like I said, that is on our InBody scan, and we're going to multiply it by whichever number we associate ourselves with the most. So let's say we're lightly active. We're going to take our, whatever that number is, let's say it's 1,500 calories that we burn with our basal metabolic rate. We're going to multiply that by 1.375, right? And that's going to give us a general TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure, right? And that's going to let us know about what we're burning every single day. Now, there is a bit of a typo on this last step of 6. It's more semantics. It made sense to me when I was writing all this out and putting it together, but it doesn't translate one for one. So it's written as subtract the calories that you need to burn daily, that we found in step 4, from your TDEE, which we found out just now in step 5, to figure out what your daily caloric intake should be, right? It's right and it's wrong. So the verbiage is wrong. So if you guys want to correct this, I'd already printed like 40 copies, so I wasn't going to kill a bunch more trees. So if you guys want to fix this, it's going to be subtract the calories, and then we're going to one line need to burn daily, and we're going to replace that with are consuming. So we're going to take the calories we are consuming. I'll wait for everyone to write. from your TDE to find out what your, and then we're going to one-line daily caloric intake should be. So the sentence should end with to find out what your, right? Okay, so it's a bit of a sentence. So we're going to replace this with current deficit is.
Wait. Calories you need. What? Take off that part.
Yeah. One line that. Okay. Current deficit is, and how many additional calories you need to burn. And I'll explain all this in just a second. So the final sentence of step 6 should be to find out what your current deficit is and how many additional calories you need to burn. Okay, so step 6, we're going to subtract the calories that we're consuming from our TDEE to find out what your current deficit is and how many additional calories we need to burn. So what I mean by that is, so let's say, like I said, I'm not going to do math out of my head, guys. Multiply BMR. So let's say my BMR is 2,000. And let's say that I am lightly active. So I'm going to multiply my BMR by 1.375. I'm going to come up with 2,750. All right, so that's my TDEE. That's what I'm going to burn every single day, a rough estimation at least, right? Then I need to say, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to have my starting calories for the challenge be. So if I'm burning 2,750 calories on average, and I have a big chunky goal, and I need to cut a lot of weight, what I'm going to start with is I'm going to say, like, okay, what is the lowest amount of calories that I am most comfortable with, right? Anyone who's trained with me has heard me talk about parallel processing, right? And that means that we need to pick something that is impossible for us to fail. Start there. Get really fucking good at that, right? So we need to pick a goal that I know no matter what, gun to my head, I can hit this goal no matter what, right? So let's say I'm absolutely comfortable eating 1,800 calories. So I'm going to say, okay, 2,750. I'm going to subtract the calories that I plan to consume. I'm going to subtract 1,800 calories from that. And that's going to give me 950. And what that means is I still have 950 calories I need to make up every day. I need to burn at least 950 calories every day for me to hit my goal. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay. So I'm going to take the amount of food I'm eating, or my calories, whatever my calories are set. I'm going to subtract it from my daily energy expenditure. And that's going to tell me the difference that I need to make up, right? So now through my activity, I have to make sure I'm hitting that additional 950 calories every day for me to stay on track for what my goal is. Does that make sense? Good. Realistically, it's going to be a guessing game, right? The most accurate, smart whatever in the world isn't even 80% accurate, right? So it's a guessing game. Like, these are great for having a general indication of were you more or less active than normal, but don't get too hung up. Like, Apple Watches are fucking terrible. Like, they'll tell people they burn 3,000 calories in a day. They'll tell them you burn 780 calories on the treadmill for 30 minutes. Never, ever. But so don't, take all those numbers with a grain of salt, but use it more as, like I said, a goal marker, right? Based on your daily burn, did I do more today or did I do less, right? And if we're tracking all of this every single week, we're going to be able to, right? It's going to be a game. It's going to be, all right, week 1 went by, I was supposed to lose 4 pounds, I lost 3. All right, first we need to figure out, did we do everything right, right? So did I track all my food that week? Did I do the cardio I was told to do that week? Did I do it right, right? The amount of people that, I'll tell them, hey, go do 30 minutes cardio, right? And they'll come back, like, yeah, I did it. I'm like, bullshit, no, you didn't. You were on the machine for 30 minutes. You did not do 30 minutes of cardio, right? So like all my clients know, like your cardio doesn't start until you are inside the target heart range. So if it takes you 20 minutes to get there, you haven't started until minute 21, right? So get to it. Make sure, right, you're spending 30 minutes in your target heart range. That makes sense, right? So like I said, at the end of that week, if we're a pound short, we need to go back and, did I weigh my food? Did I weigh it right? Did I track everything that went inside my body, right? Sodas, drinks, oil, coffee. Right? Did I do all the steps? Now, let's assume I did all the steps, I did everything right, but I still fell a pound short and I'm a little bit behind for week 2, right? Well, okay, now we need to make an adjustment, all right? And I have 2 options. I can reduce how much I put inside my body, or I can increase how much I burn. right? I err on the side of increase my activity, right? Because I like my food. And I never put clients lower than typically like 1,600 calories, right? And the reason is I would rather you have more energy and feel good at work, be focused at work, and have energy to come and train after than be on 1,200 calories, see progress faster, but you only make it 2 weeks before you screw it up, right? So I err on the side of increasing activity and keeping food at a respectable and manageable level so that you're not just burning out on fumes, right? Now, if you're one of my bodybuilding clients, it's a different story. You're gonna have to suck it up and get over it, right? But everyone else is just like a wellness client, right? It's just, you guys don't have a real reason to be that miserable, right? Like it just, you know, I mean, in a short period like this where it's only 90 days, it's a little more manageable, right? We can suck it up for, 3 or 4 weeks, like towards the end, and I can really push you, right? But as a whole, I would rather you have more food and just be a little more motivated to have more activity, right? So with that being said, I don't expect all of this to stick right away and you guys will be like, yep, I know exactly what to do, I know how to implement it, and that's why I want you to take these and sit down with your trainers, go through it with them, right? If you have questions, dig it out. I've blocked out more of my day-to-day, so I do have time after this to help flesh all this stuff out. But I at least want you guys to have a general understanding of how to take this, sit down with your stuff, and work it out, right? Hopefully I've explained it relatively well in these steps, okay? And then I've got another piece where it says step 2 implementation, and it's kind of walking you through, talking through the steps the way I just did, right? So if we follow this, if we go by the book, right, and we're doing all these pieces, you should have a very concrete and measurable plan of where you should be every single week, right? So let's say, like I said, let's say we did all the things correctly. We get to week 2 and we're a step behind, right? We're a pound back, right? We need to catch up because now we got, 4 pounds to lose this week instead of 3. Make an adjustment, right? We can either, you say, okay, for this week, I need to calibrate, so I know I'm going to pull back a little. I'm going to cut my coffees out for this week to help me get back on track, right? So that'll save me like 200 calories right there. Or you can say, okay, I'm going to do an extra 15 minutes every day of cardio, right? 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, right? Because at the end of the day, that's still an extra 35 minutes. That's an extra 40, 50 minutes, whatever it is, once it stacks up, right? So, but it means that we have to constantly be very intentional and say, okay, where did I fall? Or where did I end up, right? And how do I make up that ground, right? It's one of 2 things, either less food or more activity. It's that simple. It'll always be that simple. I did this worksheet and I kind of put all this packet together for you guys because I want you to understand that this shit is as easy as you make it, right? It's simple. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple. It's just math. That is it. It is a math equation, right? No one in here, since 2020, everyone's going to hate hearing this, but no one in here is unique, right? Your bodies all work the exact same, right? Outside of hyperacute diseases or disorders, metabolisms don't vary, right? You all have a metabolism. If you have a broken metabolism, you're dead, okay? So if you have all the misconceptions about some people have really fast metabolism, some people have slow ones. That's all bullshit, right? You either have a lot of muscle mass or you don't. Yes, love. Okay, so she asked, her question was, what about women with, hormone fluctuations, and how much does that affect things, right? So one of my previous seminars, we went over the luteal and follicular phases and stuff like that, and we talked about what those fluctuations do. So like I said, outside of acute diseases or disorders, and what I mean by that is like PCOS, hyperthyroidism, epilepsy, Hashimoto's, celiac disease, stuff like that. Outside of those, everyone's works more or less one for one, same idea, right? Now women, obviously, are 90% of most gyms. So you have your follicular and your luteal phases, right? In your follicular phase, your estrogen is going to be in a huge spike, right? It's when you feel the most drained, but it's actually when your body is at its strongest because you have the most nutrients available, right? And that second part of the phase, right, your luteal phase, it's the opposite. Your estrogen drops really hard and your progesterone spikes, right? Progesterone's great for mental health. It's like a natural antidepressant, but it is a catabolic hormone, meaning you tend to you lose muscle, right? So you have to be that much more on top of your nutrients, your supplements, your food, right? Because that's when your body's trying to recover from, bleeding for a week. So it's eating up nutrients left and right and just soaking it all up. So yes, there is going to be a variable. Does it matter? No, right? At the end of the day, right, it's like it's going to rain. I can't do anything about the rain, put a fucking jacket on and go about my day, right? So yes, you're going to have fluctuations, right? Women absolutely have more fluctuations in their hormones, which does affect nutrient uptake, recovery, stuff like that. But once again, we can do fuck all about it. So we're going to adjust, and that's why measuring every single week, right? Okay, where did I fall? It's going to allow us to kind of calibrate and say, okay, well, I'm a little behind, so I know I need to increase this or this, right? But yes, it's absolutely going to play a part, and it's going to be different for everybody. But beyond that, all the other parts we can control. So those are the parts we're going to focus on, right? Questions? Awesome. Very talkative bunch.
So just not only the BMR, we have to scan.
Yeah, yeah. If you've ever done a scan, you have it. Everyone should have the InBody app, and that's going to link to the scan. And it's going to have just a digital catalog of every scan you've ever done. So if you don't have the InBody app, definitely download the InBody app, and it's just going to link with your phone number and your email. And then every time you do a scan, you're going to have those that you can pull up. I make sure all my clients have them. That way, anytime we need to make a last-minute adjustment, we can do that on the spot. I can pull up their last scan, adjust their food, whatever it may be, right? So if I always have that available, I don't have to do this running back and forth, burning 10 minutes of your session, staring at the fucking computer, printing crap off, right? It just makes it really quick. I can do it in between sets and keep everything moving, okay? Anyone have any questions about this? It doesn't need to pertain specifically to what we're talking about, guys. I want you to use any amount of time where you're in front of me and I have your guys' attention to ask anything that's on your mind in relation to training, cardio, supplementation, nutrition, whatever it may be. Chris? Yeah. You?
Physically cannot put 1,800 calories in a stomach in a day, but you don't want to drop below 1,500. Like that's still too much.
Yeah.
So where would you?
Yeah. No, you're fine. So the first thing is, right, so now we're working with a unique situation in that you have a very limited physical capacity, right? So we have a very set container size, so we have to work with that. First thing is, any carbs, I'm going to start transitioning you over to more processed carbs, right? So instead of brown rice, I'm going to have you do white rice, right? Instead of whole grain, I'm going to have you do, like white bread or something, right? Do the same thing with my bodybuilders, right? If they've got to eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories in a day to help them grow, and they're just like, Chris, I'm fucking full all the time. I feel heavy, I feel bloated, right? I'm going to start shifting their carbohydrates into more processed variants, right? And the reason is it's going to break down faster, right? It's going to metabolize quicker, and it's going to get into your bloodstream faster, which means it gets to your muscle faster. So they can eat more and feel hungry again sooner, right? So it's going to be a lot lighter on your stomach. It's going to break down significantly faster, right? So first thing, we can start really analyzing the types of food that we're eating and making sure we're moving into specific glycemic indexes so that like the food burns quicker and it creates a shorter window of time that we have to wait between meals so that we can try to get more nutrients in. And you can do the same thing with protein sources, right? You're going to want to go for leaner and leaner protein sources. You're going to want to get away from like diabolic breakdown proteins and like casein and stuff like that because it digests super, super slowly. That way we can start to increase our frequency of feeding. But then on top of that, obviously, same thing happens, right? If we hit, I'm just physically incapable of getting more than 1,300 calories in me in a day, awesome. Well, now the other half of that equation, activity's got to go up, right? Because that's the only other part that we can control at that point. That's going to be my best bet. And then, you can shift more of your food to liquids because it's a lot easier to sip. And once again, metabolize significantly faster. So you're going to be able to get a lot more in a smaller amount of time and it not weigh as heavy on your body. So just playing with that and just trying to figure out what works best for you. Yes?
Do you have a list of lower calorie that'll make you feel hungry, like the opposite?
That do what? Sorry.
That'll fill you up.
Be more satiating?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lower, keep your calories.
Yeah. So, the first thing, if you're finding that you're struggling with, I'm trying to cut a little bit of weight or whatever it may be, and you're getting hungry too often and you're finding that it's really hard to manage, first thing I'm going to ask is how much water are you drinking, right? Most people are criminally underhydrating, right? And water is the one nutrient in your body that if you don't get enough of it, it will hold on to it and it will start partitioning it out, right? So up your water intake significantly, right? Early on when I have people cutting their calories and they're saying, Chris, I'm hungry all the fucking time, right? I'm gonna say, okay, before you give in and eat some crap, right? Every time you get hungry and you wanna reach for something, drink 10 ounces of water and wait 10 minutes. Cold water. No worries, up, you're good. If anyone else wants a seat, there is one available. So start with water intake. From there, you're going to want to do the opposite. You're going to want to get away from processed foods, and you're going to want to get into as many like complex carbs and just whole foods as possible, right? And the main ingredient that we're looking for is high fiber, right? So fiber is just part of a plant that our body cannot metabolize or process. So it sits in the stomach, it ferments, right? Creates gas, right? And it makes us feel very, very full, right? And it takes a lot longer to break down, and it's really good for your digestive tract, right? So start looking at more complex foods, more whole foods, up your fiber intake significantly, up your water intake, and that's going to help with hunger, right? Also, just keep in mind, guys, like anytime we implement something like this, like more calories, less calories, the effect is same on everybody, right? Whether you're bulking or you're cutting, it's the same level of difficulty. It's just different stimulus, it's different signals. My skinny people that want to grow, they hate it, right? Because they feel heavy, they feel bloated. Their stomachs have to stretch because they're like this, right? And for my bigger people, it's the exact same thing in the opposite direction, right? Their stomachs are this big, but I'm only putting this much food in it, right? So a big piece is understanding. I know a lot of you have been to my seminars before and we've talked about this, but understanding what these signals mean, right? Hunger signal is an annoying misnomer, right? Your body has no fucking clue that you're hungry. It has no way of differentiating that. There's zero context for that message. What your body is saying is there is space, right? Which is an important differentiation to make, right? Because you start listening and hearing it differently when you hear someone say, I'm hungry, or, hey, there is room, right? It's not the same message, right? So understand that when you are feeling that message, it's also the same message that your body uses for dehydration, right? Which is why my first answer is to drink more water, right? So understand that when you feel that growl, that signal, right, that is not your body saying, I have to have food. It is simply saying that there is space. Because for 30, 40 years of your life, you've put this much food in every time you eat, and now you're only doing this much food, right? So it's going to take time for your body, right? The way the central nervous system works, right? I'm going to relate this to stretching. First time you ever stretch and you reach for your toes, you get this big burning pain that shoots down your ass, right? Pain is not real. Right? It's a message from your central nervous system to your brain to say, stop doing whatever you're doing, right? So what our body is telling us when we do this is saying we never in our day-to-day create this range of motion. And so what we're going to do is we're going to send a pain signal to tell you to stop it so that you don't hurt yourself, right? Then you say, fuck you, body. I'm going to stretch every single day for 30 minutes. And it stops burning, right? It's not that you lengthen the muscle. Stretching does not lengthen your tissue, right? What it does do is you're doing it so often and you're doing it so consistently that your body says, okay, well, I keep giving you these pain signals, but you keep doing it and we keep not getting hurt. So it must be fine. So I'm going to stop giving you pain signals. So what you've actually done is increased your pain tolerance, right? Same thing for the food, right? That first week or two you're in a cut, it's like, yo, give me food, give me food, give me food, give me food. You keep not doing it, you keep being fine and healthy, so your body says, okay, well, I'm going to stop giving you food signals because apparently you're fine, right? So understanding these signals and understanding what they mean and the context of them is really, really important, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of push through it, right? But when you think every time you feel they're like, oh, well, the healthy thing to do is eat because my body needs food, right? It makes it really fucking hard to lose weight. But when you understand the difference of those signals and what they really mean and just saying, oh, there is space, right? It's a very different conversation now, and it makes it a lot easier to ignore it, okay? Any other questions, guys? Food, sups, nutrition, cardio, anything like that? Do we have any muscle gainers in here? 4-ish, 6-ish? Awesome. Okay, so the second half, guys, you're going to notice is significantly shorter steps. And I didn't reset the little numbering system in Google Sheets, so it just kept counting. So for muscle gain, we're going to do the opposite when it comes to figuring out our weight. Right? So we're going to subtract, we're going to take our goal weight and we're going to subtract our current weight from it, and that's going to tell us the difference we need to make up, right? Same, different direction, okay? Then we're going to divide that by 12, just like we did for the weight loss, to figure out how much muscle or how much lean mass, right? Another important differentiation, right? The muscle gain category goes off lean body mass. That is not pure muscle tissue, right? One of my guys won, I think not last skip, but the one before, with 29 pounds of lean mass. He did not put on 29 fucking pounds of muscle, right? That's water, bone, and muscle. So a lot of water, carbohydrates, okay? So we need to figure out how much lean mass we need to put on every week, and that's what step 2/8 is going to help us do. So we're going to divide that difference by 12, figure out what we need to gain every week, right? Number 9, we're going to multiply BMR by the needed activity factor formulas, same as the weight loss. How active are you, right? But we're going the opposite direction. So we're not figuring out how big of a deficit we need to be in. We're trying to find out how big of a surplus we need to be in, right? And then we're going to take those calories, we're going to set them in a 200 to 400 calorie surplus. Weight gain is way more kind of guess and check, right? And we're going to create the exact same system, right? So week 1's going to go by. I'm going to have bumped up my calories. I'm going to bumped up my activity, train really hard, right? Week 1 ends, and say, okay, well, I put on 2 pounds, but I need to put on 4 pounds. Adjust, right? Make sure you did everything right. Track your food, cardio, training, yada, 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 right? And if you're like, yeah, I did everything I was supposed to do as honestly as I could, awesome. Add another 200 calories. Let's bump it up. See how week 2 treats us, right? And it's the game. It's trying to figure out, like, okay, how much is my body using? How much does my body need? And if I'm not hitting the goal that I need, then I need to adjust upward, right? Weight loss, the exact same thing in the other direction, right? So my biggest thing from this, guys, that I want you to take away is that this shit is math. It is nothing else, right? If you do the work, if you're honest with yourself, right, and you play the game, you'll get where you're going. Right? It's just consistency and making sure you're being honest when you play the game. But as long as you know the rules, the game is pretty damn simple. Right? You guys have any questions for me? Go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So her question was, for weight loss, what would I recommend in regards to training frequency, both for weights and for cardio? So that kind of makes me want to answer your question with another question really quick. Just because I want to kind of dive into everyone's mindset, and I want to think about, like, I want you guys to really start thinking about how you're looking at this stuff, right? Who here, just off the top of your head, right? And if you know better, that's great. But who here thinks that weight loss weight training is the key to weight loss, or is more significant of a factor? And who thinks that cardio is a more significant factor for weight loss? Weights or cardio? All right, so let's see a hand for weights, and let's see a hand for cardio. Awesome. Okay, so it's not right or wrong. It's not right or wrong. So, okay, so let's take some steps back. Who here knows what controls your metabolism? Yes, sir. Muscle mass. Nothing more, nothing less. Right? If you have a fast metabolism, you have a lot of muscle tissue. If you have a slow metabolism, you don't have a lot of muscle. Okay? So, the way I want you guys to think of muscle and metabolism, right? Let's say I have 60 pounds of dry lean mass. That'd be crazy. Let's say I have 60 pounds, right? I want you to think of muscle tissue as like little generators all over your body, right? More generators, you're stronger, you're faster, produce more power, right? What do generators need to run? Fuel. That's it, right? So your base metabolism is just the amount of fuel your body burns every day to power those generators, right? 1-to-1. So you put on more muscle, metabolism comes up, right? Because they need more fuel, right? If you lose muscle, so we take away 10 generators, probably going to burn less fuel, right? So metabolism comes down. Any questions about the basic functions of metabolism? Okay. What was your question? Because I lost what I was talking about. Beautiful. Okay. I'm glad we're all on the same page. Yeah. So, I mean, there's not like a perfect frequency, right? I mean, it's very much one of those things where to a degree, more is better, right? Right? It's just, once again, it's just math, right? We're burning more energy and we're going to lose more weight, right? But if I had to if I had to take a client and say, you can only do one, weight training or cardio, I will choose weight training 10 times out of 10 for the rest of my life until the day I die, right? Cardio is important, right? But it is probably the most overrated thing for weight loss by an aggressive margin, okay? It's not to say cardio is bad, right? It's simply that we put the wrong amount of importance on it for the wrong reasons, right? So when I, for example, assign cardio to my clients, I do it two ways. So if I take someone and let's say we're fresh, we're starting off, it's our first week together. All right, I'm not going to say, all right, I'm going to Stairmaster 4 times a week, 30 minutes, don't fuck it up, right? They're never going to do that. They're going to make it through 2 sessions and say, fuck this guy, right? So what we are going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I want you to do 2 types of cardio. I want you to do 1 day in the gym, right? And that cardio, that's going to be for your cardiovascular health. That's going to make your heart stronger because I want you to be able to push harder when we train with weights. I want you to be able to move significantly more weight. And the way we're going to do that, right, is your heart gets blood and oxygen into your muscle tissue. That's how we get nutrients in the muscle. So the better the muscle, the more resources it has, the better we're going to work. We're going to get more done, right? It also means that the stronger your heart is, the faster you're going to recover between your sets, which means, right, I always put it in a 1-to-1, right? Imagine that every single person in the world is only allotted 1 hour in the gym every single day. I want my people to get 10 times more than everyone else, right? And the way we do that is make sure that every single part is functioning at the highest level. So if their heart's nice and strong and can get lots of blood and oxygen very easily into all their muscle tissue, guess what? I'm going to get a lot more done with my clients than everyone else because they're going to recover significantly faster between sets, right? Which means we can move more weight, we can get more sets in, we get more reps in, yada, 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 right? So day 1, cardio in the gym, that's for your cardiovascular health, right? For that, I'm going to ask them to say, okay, I want you between, X and Y for your heart rate, relatively higher rate. I want your heart to work, right? Days 2 and 3 of cardio, I want you to go for a walk. That's it. I want you to go the fuck outside, get some damn sunlight, get some vitamin D, get some fresh air, and go for a walk, right? And the reason there, that one is for our weight loss. That cardio is, let's further our caloric deficit. Let's increase our energy, right? As we progress, as we mature as trainer and trainee, we'll start to divvy that up differently, right? We'll start to increase the intensity a little bit, but all in all, right, for weight loss, I want their cardio to be low steady state energy expenditure, right? And what I mean by that is you typically have 2 forms of cardio. You have like low steady state, which is lower intensity, very steady state, right? Very projectable for your body about how much energy you're going to use and how quickly you need it, right? And then you're going to have more high intensity cardio. And that one, it can be simply that your heart rate is significantly higher. It could mean that your heart rate is more erratic. So the pace is changing constantly, okay? Now, when we do high intensity cardio, and that could be a workout, that could be on the cardio machines, if it's high intensity or it's erratic, right, your body can't metabolize fat fast enough. It just can't. It takes the process a little bit more nuanced and it takes too long to do it. So by the time you burn out of your glycogen, it has to choose another fuel source, right? So muscle metabolizes significantly quicker than fat, right? So we're doing high intensity constantly. Yes, you'll lose weight, but you're burning a lot of muscle tissue, right? Which brings your metabolism down, which kind of puts us on the back foot, right? Which is not what I want to do. So typically I want your cardio more steady state, right? The only time I personally, and like I said, if your trainer has you do something, that's fine. This is just my training style, my preference with someone that trains primarily bodybuilders, right? I want to preserve as much muscle mass as possible. Now, I'm really scatterbrained. When you're doing this high intensity cardio, like I said, it's not that it's wrong. It's just usually if I'm prescribing that, it's for athletes. It's very sport specific, right? I want them to have this ability to recover extremely quickly. And when that, like, it is what it is, we're going to lose a little bit of muscle, and I'm going to offset their food to justify that, right? To help preserve as much of that as I can, right? So it's not right or wrong. It's what moves you towards your goal the fastest, right? What best serves you, right? And that's 90% of fitness in general is like very few things that are right and wrong outside of just some absurdly wacky shit, right? And it's more of just what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy and what serves you, right? If you're not enjoying it, probably not going to serve you for very long, right? But if you're having fun doing it, then sure, it might be a little more inefficient, but if you're enjoying it, that's more consistent than not doing it at all, right? So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt and apply it to your situation specifically, right? Whereas that steady state cardio, right, where I have all my clients, no matter how big or small they are, I have them all on there. I typically, if like I want to make sure that there is little margin of error as possible, I'm typically going to put people either on a treadmill, because you're going to set the speed, or the Stairmaster, if they can, physically keep up with it, just because they can't screw it up. Once you set the speed, that is the speed, right? There's no variables. Whereas, like you said, yeah, the bike, the elliptical, you can kind of get off track if you don't know how to pace yourself really well. So there's no point there. But back to your question, sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place. I prefer higher weightlifting days, like volume-wise. And cardio, I like to use it more supplementary with my clients, right? I don't want to create this fucking negative connotation of, fuck, I did 40 minutes of cardio today. And then they just tap out entirely and don't come to the gym that day, right? So I try to make it something they can do from home in regards to, like I said, 2 days, just go for a damn walk. And then give me 1 day where we do higher intensity cardio here to get your heart stronger, right? And then we obviously adjust that as time goes on. But I'm always going to put more frequency on the weight training, because that's going to directly correlate with all the things I want to do, right? Specifically, women come in all the time, they're like, Chris, I want to get toned, right? I'm like, awesome. So we need to build muscle. They're like, no, I don't want to get bulky. I'm like, okay, well, that's not how that works, right? Like, being afraid to accidentally get fucking yoked is like stopping driving to work because you're afraid you're going to become a NASCAR driver. Like, there's a lot of intention there, right? So there's a lot of steps that we're just jumping over, right? Like, it's almost disrespectful for everyone that did put it into work and get really big that you think you'll accidentally become that, right? So I say that specifically because I don't want you guys to have any hesitations towards lifting heavy, right? Lifting heavy, right? It increases bone density. Does everyone know how? It causes microfractures all throughout your skeletal system, right? So let's say I start squatting extremely heavy, right? I'm going to get stress fractures all throughout my bones. And then my body's going to seal that and make it stronger. And then I progressively overload that, right? Which is the exact same process in regards to how we build muscle tissue, right? You don't build muscle in the gym. We destroy as much of it as we can, right? Because the way the central nervous system works, right? I come in here and I push, let's say, my biceps to the absolute limit, and I just cause as much damage as I possibly can, staying within 2 to 3 reps of failure at all times, right? My body says, like, it doesn't have any context, right? It doesn't know I'm at the fucking gym. It doesn't know that I'm working out. It just knows my body's being put under an inordinate amount of stress. And so what it's doing is saying, okay, well, that was really hard. So we're going to take some extra resources. We're going to allocate them to that muscle tissue to make it stronger. So next time that's not so hard, right? And that's where our food comes into play. And that's why the quality of our food matters, right? You can't build a mansion out of sticks and mud, right? But the food you put into your body decides the quality of your payout from this, right? So don't go kill yourself and beat the shit out of your body and train super hard and then eat garbage, because you're not going to get a 1-for-1, right? We are very much in control of that, right? And the micronutrients is just as important as the macronutrients, which is like, for example, why I don't let any of my clients do more than 1 to 2 shakes a day. I don't want it to become a crutch. I don't want you drinking all your calories. I want you to get as much whole food in as you can so your body can actually, build and prosper, right? So I'm going to put the volume and the frequency definitely on weight training. There's my short version of that answer. Any questions, guys? Supplements, cardio, training, anything, any misconceptions, misnomers, anything you guys are concerned about, have heard, right? Like the crap that, like, if you eat after 7, it's going to turn to fat, right? It doesn't matter what time you eat. Right? Most times I go home and I'm eating like a 900-calorie dinner every single night at like 8:30, 9 p.m. And then I make a 700-calorie shake about an hour later. And I eat my 4 Trader Joe Reese cups every single night before bed. Like, yeah. So don't worry about like your timing in that regard. Like, nutrient timing is important in regards to like protein uptake, stuff like that. But not in regards of, if you go home and eat a fucking steak and then go to bed 30 minutes later, all that matters is at the end of the day, were you in a deficit, were you in a surplus? Yep. Any questions? Does everyone feel like they have a way right now to plan out their progress for the 90 days and make sure they're actually on track? Huh? Kick Harrison in the head. All right. So if you guys don't have any questions, that's what I got for you guys today.